I sat down with Sony's first console trying to go through my back catalog, but boy did I end up finding some gems. I am the Game Collector and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I'm playing the PS1 for absolutely no reason.
Second Opinion Games.
I was a huge fan of the Super Nintendo, Sega CD, and yes, even the Atari Jaguar back in the day. But when I first got my hands on my PlayStation, well, I put in a little bit of Ace Combat. This is Ace Combat 3, and it's a high-flying aerial event. Boy, did it ever blow all of the other consoles that I've ever played up to this point out of the water, and yes, I'm definitely going to include the Atari Jaguar in that. Even the Nintendo 64 could never achieve the heights that this game could, because look at the draw distance. Sure, there's a little bit of fog, but it's like miles out there. And you can use your machine guns to blow up planes in midair, but chances are you're not gonna hit crap, so you have to rely heavily on your missiles. Luckily, you have a freaking ton of them on your ship. Also, it can do some pretty crazy things that seem to defy all of the laws of nature and gravity and everything else, which you don't really notice at first until you actually complete a mission or fail, and then you can watch it on instant replay. Blowing up everything, including ground targets, definitely is satisfying, and boy did this one blow me away. Toshinden 4 set my expectations a little lower. Because it was a heavily polygon fighting game of the era, I expected not so much. And you know what? That's what I got. This was a long-running series called Battle Arena Toshinden. I don't know why on the fourth one they decided to drop the Battle Arena part. That feels kind of dumb. Just like the overall characters that you actually get to play as. My favorite one here seems to be a busty female ninja with a giant swastika attached to her back, and she throws it at people, I guess. The special moves aren't too hard to pull off, usually just involves hitting the shoulder buttons. That's pretty darn easy for a change, and you do have to fill up your meter in order to do some of these special moves, which can get kind of annoying. You could also juggle people in the air, so if you're really good at this style, well then you could probably kill people in absolute no time. For everyone else, I don't recommend playing this long enough to get that good, because it's a complete waste of your time. You're probably better off playing Tekken or something else, but it's definitely an interesting way to kill a couple of minutes here and there. Unlike Bomberman Party, which will suck your life away if you let it. Of course, there is a single player mode here, which feels really boring and has you definitely feeling like you are your worst enemy, because chances are you're gonna blow yourself up more than the enemies come after you. Also, it starts ridiculously slow and easy, and man, it just doesn't feel right at all. However, when you play with a friend, or many friends, or if you have no friends and set it to completely play against the computer, that's where the fun really starts. With frantic bomb placing down, kicking bombs, maybe riding on the back of I don't know what they are, kangaroos that hatch out of eggs. That lets you get an additional hit. If you die, you're still not out of it, because you could always roll around the outside of the screen and throw bombs in and try and blow people up. If you don't die very quickly, well then it will go to sudden death mode, where the whole screen just starts filling in until the last man standing is the victor, which is pretty much what Bomberman does. Now, the Saturn version had tons of hype, and rightly so. It was a terrific game, and yes, better than this one, but you know what? This is still a lot of fun. And it comes off just like a Saturday morning cartoon, just like Mototoon Grand Prix. Now, this is very much a Mario Kart-styled racing game, or more like a cartoon-inspired racing game. The tracks here are far more interesting than anything Mario Kart did up until, past the GameCube era. That's how good these really are. However, there's only a handful of them. Also, the power-ups are kind of inventive here too, because instead of just outright picking them up, you actually have to drive over a money square. You could hold as many of them as you possibly can, but you can then pick pick them from the lineup. If you get really good with the timing here, you can get exactly what you want every single time. The boost is probably the best. Now in this racing game, you can actually pull back the camera and see everything, which is really nice for spotting shortcuts and seeing everything the game has to offer. However, this comes with a couple of graphical glitches and whatnot, but it's a definite trade-off that I am willing to make. You start off in last place and you try to be in first by the time you finish the race. It's not too difficult. You could probably beat it your very first sitting, but it is definitely a rush from start to finish. Also unexpected, Cardinal Sin. Now, I wasn't sure what this game was when I really picked it up. I just thought it had a pretty cool name. I put it in my system without looking the back of the box, and I was opened up with some great CG animation and voiceover work. Is this an epic RPG? My heart was rushing to find out what type of game I was gonna be playing, and it turned out that it was a fighting game, and I was really let down then because 3D fighting games at the time that weren't super mainstream weren't known for being the best. However, this one actually plays pretty darn good. There's weapons on the fighting arenas that you could pick up. Sometimes there's even a sword that lets you do a counter attack move. If you're attacked while hitting a certain button, then you could unleash a massive amount of damage on your foe. There's items, there's special moves that you're probably gonna have to look up because, you know what, this is back when you had to buy books to go along with your video games. So luckily the internet exists today, which at the time wasn't so prevalent. And yeah, this one ended up being a ton of fun and much better than I expected. Certainly better than the Battle Arena series ever was, and I'm sad to say I don't think we ever saw a sequel. The Contra series saw a ton of sequels, and the sequel that nobody wanted was Contra Legacy of War. Now in this game, there's no side-scrolling running and gunning whatsoever, which was the very best part about the Contra games. Instead, they took on a whole new 3D approach aspects, which would have been a little mind-blowing at the time, but it does not hold up well in retrospect. Also, the forced camera angle means that enemies are going to hit you from off screen, and if you're not ready for it, well, chances are it's going to be game over before you know it. You can't beat the game on easy, even though the easy is still rather difficult, but it is a good way to learn how to play. Most of the enemies you could actually outrun rather than straight up fighting, which is something that you're probably going to have to do often if some enemies are giving you some major problems. And also, there are many different characters that you could choose from, but definitely pick the regular old Contra guy because he has these homing shots that just destroy everything. The other characters also have some homing weapons that are somewhat useful, but not nearly as useful as these homing lasers. This is better than other people say it is, but still not very good. Some people say it was never meant to be a Contra game to begin with, and they just slapped the name on the title to be able to sell some units, along with changing some of the aspects. And while I don't have any evidence to prove that that was right or wrong, I'm just going to turn to the next game, 1, which definitely feels a lot more like Contra than the actual Contra game I just played. However, this one was produced by Capcom. If I didn't make it clear, I mean the name of the game is just 1. That makes it really hard to look up at any given time because it's such a generic sounding title, which is why I haven't heard anyone else ever talk about it. Also, this game is like total and complete hell to me because of how freaking awesome it looks, with explosions going on everywhere, with an attack helicopter that is on your butt from the start of the game. Now, there are frequent checkpoints, so if you die, you don't have to go too far back, and you just blow up everything. Also, I don't even feel like I'm taking any damage when I get hit by stuff, and the more stuff you blow up, the stronger your character gets. Boss battles here are done sort of dynamically. You can't actually shoot any of the bosses. You have to use your environments to destroy them. What makes it total hell to me? How about the game is so freaking difficult that I can't even clear the very first stage. When you have a game with such an awesome premise and explosions and everything pushing the hardware to its extremes, and I can't do anything because of really bad platforming experiences, well, that's just too rough for me. I gotta play something a little slower. In steps Hogs of War. Take a little bit from the Worm series, add in the game series Cannon Fodder. If you know that series, then you absolutely love it. And add in a whole bunch of pigs and pig-flavored puns, and you have yourself a turn-based rock'em sock'em game. Now, you can play this game with a friend, but the main mission modes will have you pushing to extreme levels, even if the gameplay itself is quite slow. Usually, you have to find some health and find some extra weapons on the map. Sneak up on your enemies and try and blow them up. The easier it is to hit an enemy with the weapon, the weaker the weapon tends to be. Sometimes you'll want to plant dynamite at their feet to blow them sky high, but don't sneak up next to them and stab them with a knife when they're almost out of energy, because when they explode, they will take you with them. And if you happen to beat the level with all of your pigs intact, you'll get some added bonuses, so you can even promote the characters, which unlock new moves and more capabilities. Having an all-star team to completely destroy the other team definitely feels satisfying, which means you're going to have to save after every level that you perfect, and you're going to love every moment of it. But maybe you'd rather be playing a first-person shooter. Well, then check out Jumping Flash. This is the most freaking nuts first-person shooter I think I ever played. You play as a rabbit that can jump super freaking high. So obviously, he's also a robot. You have a double jump, and when you hit the second jump button, you'll be able to look down just a little bit in order to see where you're gonna land. So landing jumps is actually really fun. Also, how high you can go really is the most amazing thing, on top of the draw distance and the beautiful graphics, if not also really crude and sort of disgusting looking. A lot of people took a pass on this just when they first looked at it, like it's some type of cutesy game, but no, there's a real challenge here. It's also something that you want to explore, because you have to. Every level has a couple MacGuffins scattered about, and then you have to explore and pick up those. You also want to save some of your special weapons for the bosses. The first boss battle is against this dragon, and yeah, you can bullet sponge him and just take the heat and then put him down of his misery, but I'm gonna tell you right now, later bosses will not be so kind. There's even some tight spots where you don't even have to jump at all, because you just move like a real first-person shooter experience. Yeah, because this robot bunny has laser guns attached, and tell me what's cooler than that. But one of the most interesting things about this game is that it plays without using any of the analog sticks. Just like every single game I talked about in this video, you can play them entirely with the classic Sony PlayStation controller, not the dual analog one. So the fact that they managed to get this working without an analog stick and just a D-pad is clearly amazing. But I have one more weird oddity to share with you today. And that's the game Grumble. A massive shout out to you if you ever heard or remember this one, because I have not seen it anywhere else out there. This is a game that I think was probably made by a power tool company, because it's sort of like Pac-Man but with tools. You play as a cute little space alien jumping on top of screwdrivers and hammers and all different other types of power tools, trying to nail them down or unscrew things or break stuff. And the whole time, you're attacked by other creatures on sort of a maze map. It's just an excuse to have a good maze experience, and a bit of puzzle solving in here as well. There's also bonus areas what will give you some power-ups, like the ability to move a little bit faster if you manage to find them or even want to take that on. However, you have just one life to clear as many levels as you can, and even though it might seem ridiculously easy at first, it won't be long before you see where the true challenge lies. Sure, you could jump off your power tool at any time you want, but then you can't actually get the mission done, and you're racing the clock the entire time. However, if you jump off and sort of hover around, then you're not gonna take a hit by the enemies, and even though they don't do that much damage to you, it can still totally ruin your day. This maze-running puzzle experience was one of my biggest shockers of the PlayStation 1, and still remains a hidden gem to this very day. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it. This was just an excuse to go through some of my backlog of PlayStation 1 games that I really wanted to play. Notably, the video game 1, which I thought might be an awesome run and gun experience, and I was right, but it was way too difficult, and I don't have that kind of time to master it. But Grumble just completely blew me away. I can't believe this game actually got made. How someone put so much time and energy into this concept, even though it is completely ridiculous and stupid. So I want to know what PlayStation video games that I should look at in the future, what ones were true hidden gems, and I might even do another top 10 on this system down the road. So until later, I will see you again, guys.